Today we are going to be talking about the highly anticipated KVK with 1960 and 1093. This is a huge KVK that a lot of the community are going to be very excited to watch. We've seen these two teams fight each other many times, and now yet again, we will be seeing them play together in this KVK. It's going to be a massive KVK to watch, and I'm super excited. All right, guys, so now that we are back to having a reality check right now, so actually we've realized that this KVK is not going to be as good as it sounded initially, because obviously once upon a time, if you said those two kingdoms were going to fight each other in a KVK, you would automatically assume that is going to be one of the best KVKs of the year. However, that is not the case this time around, unfortunately. So the reason why I'm making this video today, guys, is because I'm actually in this KVK, by the way. So I'm actually in Camp Wessex. That is the same camp with 60 GT. So you can see the team at the bottom, which is MEH, is 2902. And that is where my second account is right now. So I'm definitely involved in this KVK. And that's also the reason why I'm making this video today, just to give you my perspective on exactly what's happened and really why this is possibly the worst KVK that at least I've ever been a part of, and one that I've probably ever seen for a very, very long time. So essentially what we're going to be looking at right now, okay, guys, is we're going to be looking at the stats. So you can see that we have got some of the stats up on the screen right now. The amount of drama that has been going on since the matchmaking was announced just a couple of days ago is absolutely unreal. Full disclosure, I'm not part of the Diplo team or anything like that. I'm sure many of you have already seen, there's been a lot of videos by other content creators talking about the amount of drama in this KVK. Like, it is impossible not to hear about it at this point in time. So, you know, today I'm just giving you my perspective on what's going on. Really, the biggest issue in this KVK generally is just the matchmaking itself. And that is definitely no one's fault. That's just system-based. And for whatever reason, the system decided to put us all into this KVK. I've seen a lot of comments on other people's videos and other Facebook posts as well. One thing's for sure, right now, the community is very divided on this issue. But I'm going to tell you my perspective on why this KVK was doomed from the start. So in case you don't realize, okay, the top kingdom up here is 1093. They're in Northumbria. That is literally the best kingdom in the game right now. It's the only kingdom at the top level that has two alliances, two completely full and active alliances, mind you, where they actually have 4.7 trillion kill points in total, just in that one kingdom. It is absolutely insane. The issue is, okay, if you actually took away 1093 and you look at the rest of the camps here, you look at Mercia, Wessex, and East Anglia, this would have been a fantastic KVK. I'm not going to lie. This would have been an amazing KVK, and I'm sure a lot of people would have really enjoyed it. Unfortunately, I'm not trying to like say, oh, you know, 1093, you ruined the matchmaking or whatever. It's not their fault. One, who are they going to verse because no one is on their level? And two, it's like this was their fourth registration period. So it's like they kind of needed to find a match at some point. But the really interesting thing about this matchmaking, all right, I'm gonna rewind a little bit and go back to when we actually registered for this KVK, all right? So there were three options for registration. There was like the King of Blades KVK, the Warriors Unbound, and the King of Britain KVK. Those were the options. Okay, and my kingdom, 2902, alongside 1960 as well. We both registered for the Warriors Unbound KVK. Now, unfortunately, it's not a super popular KVK format. Around about less than 60 kingdoms, I think it was like 57 kingdoms in total, they all registered for Warriors Unbound. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough to put 1960 and 2902 into a KVK together. So what had happened is we actually got a no match found. And so when you get a no match found, you enter into the by-election phase that allows you to join another KVK format. And so essentially what had happened is once we kind of got fed into the King of Britain KVK, the system itself decided to put us into this matchmaking. But the really interesting thing about that, the reason why I'm telling you this, guys, is because I'm just thinking about this. If 1960 and 2902 hadn't have got a no match found in the Warriors Unbound, I'm also wondering if 1093 would have had their own no match found. So it's kind of like the system was forcing us into this KVK just so 1093 who had already had the full maximum amount of skips could find a KVK on their own. And so that is basically just the backstory of how we ended up in this KVK in the first place. It's a 4-camp KVK. So really the most simple solution is a 2v2. Well, okay. If you want to do a 2v2, that's fine. In most cases, I completely agree. Go ahead, do your 2v2. That's what this 4-camp KVK format is made for. But you look at the stats here of all 4 of these camps, and there is literally no good outcome for 1093 to ally with anyone here on the map. Even if you look at the weakest camp here on the map, which is East Anglia. And by the way, these guys are not weak at all. I'm just saying, in comparison to the other camps, technically they are the weakest camp on the map. And that still consists of 2293, by the way, which is SIP up there with almost 1.2 trillion kill points. So in total, this camp has 2.6 trillion kill points. Imagine if they allied with 1093, which was the discussion in the Diplo. Again, I'm not part of Diplo. It's just common knowledge. That's what was going on. Everyone knows that they were trying to push those 2 camps as the allies. All right. Now, the biggest issue with that is 1093 are so powerful that even by them allying with the weakest camp on the map, that still is like a 0% chance of winning this KVK. So 1818 up here in Mercia would literally be next to 1093, okay? And they would be literally wiped out as soon as the pass opens for Kingsland. They would be wiped out, and that would be the end of Kingsland. Maybe on our team, Wessex, we could probably beat East Anglia in a 1v1. Sure, we can beat them in a 1v1. As soon as Kingsland opens though, however, that's a totally different story. Here's the thing, guys. I know a lot of people are complaining in the community. They're like, all right, why didn't you do a 2v2? One thing that I read on Facebook, all right, from other 1818 representatives, and I completely agree with this statement, by the way. And I know some of you guys are probably not going to like this. You're not going to like what I say. But that's my job as a streamer, is I'm going to give you guys my perspective. And sometimes you're not going to like it. Some of you will agree with this statement, some of you may not, and that's totally fine. But that's my job as a streamer, is to tell you my perspective. I'm going to at least be honest with you guys and tell you my perspective on this KVK. Now, the thing that 1818 had said publicly, okay, is they basically talked about this is a lost KVK no matter what way you look at it. There's no possible way that when you have Northumbria allied with East Anglia, it gives the other teams a chance to win this KVK. It's like less than 10% chance. It's a completely lost cause. Now, this is where the drama comes in, because a lot of people in the community are saying, bro, who cares if you lose the KVK? You just fight, you know, you just go in and you try. Yeah, that's fair enough. It doesn't matter if you lose or win the KVK. If you have a chance of winning a KVK, you're going to go all in. If you lose, then you say at least you tried. I completely agree with that statement, but not when it's a guaranteed loss. If you know you're going to lose from the start, all right, and then you expect us to spend hundreds or thousands of dollars on the game, that's just not going to happen. The guys who are saying that in the community, you guys aren't in this KVK. You're not the ones who are going to be putting money into this KVK, into the Crystal Tech, when the KVK is lost from the start. I mean, if you guys are watching this, I get your frustration. Like, you want to see a great KVK. I completely agree with that. I wanted to play a great KVK as well. I'm also upset that we don't get to fight in this KVK, but it is what it is. And it still goes back to the number one thing. If we actually wanted to fight in this KVK, all right, we would need to spend a lot of money. And we're just not willing to do that. At least I'm not willing to do that. And I know many other players here are also not willing to do that. Like, let's face it, guys. Like, that is one of the bad things about Rise of Kingdoms. I'm just being honest. It is a very expensive game. I love this game, but it is super expensive. And I'm not going to put my hundreds or thousands of dollars into a KVK that is lost from the start. That's not who I am. I'm not a billionaire. You know, I would rather save my money for a KVK that we can actually contest from the start. That could go either way. And then if you win, that's fantastic. If you lose, you still had a great battle. But not in this scenario. This scenario is lost from the start. So anyone who is telling us, oh, bro, just fight and do your best. Why don't you just do a 2v2 and fight them? Well, there's a reason why. And there you go. That is the reason why. And that is a kind of a dark part of this game, but it is the truth. And unless you're made of money, most players are not willing to do that. So unfortunately, what the situation has kind of come down to is players are pretty much going to use this as a recovery KVK. As sad as that sounds, that is pretty much what it is. And I'm guessing all sides are just going to be doing a big farming KVK. And it is very sad to see that with these very high level kingdoms in this KVK together are all having to resort to farming. Because like I said, when we looked at the camps here, and the weakest camp on the map is East Anglia, and even with them allying with 1093, it is still less than 10% chance of actually, winning this KVK. We're not even going to bother mentioning Mercia or Wessex, because obviously that would just be even worse for the other opposing camps. So it doesn't matter what way you look at it. Any 2v2 in this KVK matchup is a lost cause. There's no scenario here where a 2v2 can work. It's just not possible at all. Now, the only other situation, this is where people were talking about it. This is where more drama comes into play. All right. So a lot of people were talking about, well, how about we do a 3v1? So you have Mercia, Wessex, and East Anglia, and they all team up against 1093. Okay. We've seen that happen recently in a few other KVKs. I know that we saw 2377. They had to deal with that situation recently. And then we also saw 1846 previously to that. They also had a very similar situation. Actually, in this map itself, it was in King of All Britain as well. Anyway, so look, that is not really an option either, because you guessed it, guys. Guess what? If it's a 3v1, we're going to win, and 1093 have zero chance of winning the KVK. And you know what? They don't want to do that. Now, I completely understand that they don't want to do that, and I respect their decision in not wanting to do a 3v1. That makes total sense to me, because guess what? We're in the same position as well. We don't want to be in that 2v2 situation versus the #1 kingdom in the game where it's a lost cause from the beginning. So you know what? Even if 1093 can't see our perspective of things, well, I do see your perspective on things. Now, really, it's exactly the same situation depending on how you look at it. But either way, it's a lost cause. No matter if you do a 2v2, it's a lost cause. If you do a 3v1 all against 1093, again, it's a lost cause for 1093. So it doesn't matter what way you look at it, half of the community is divided on this KVK, and there's no possible way that you can actually have a good outcome that works for anyone here. This is why so much drama has been unfolding in the last few days. If you want to look at this map in a very, very creative kind of a way, the only other way that you can make this work, and I actually did think about it because I'm like, how can we make this KVK work? I can't think of a way. Like, actually, there is a very simple way. The problem is getting a kingdom to agree to this is like almost impossible. But honestly, this is the only way that you can actually make this KVK work, in my opinion, is you would essentially need one of these kingdoms or one of these camps pretty much just to sit out of the KVK entirely. And like, if you could have some kind of agreement where maybe that camp that like sits out of the KVK, right? If they had like a guaranteed certain number of autarchs just as like a placeholder or something, all right? And then they just sit it out and they let the other 3 camps fight. Guess what? Now you have a fantastic KVK. I'm even going to say this as an example. Imagine if my camp Wessex, again, I don't want to do this. I'm just giving you an example of what could work in this KVK. Imagine if Wessex sat out. They didn't even play KVK. They just sat in zone 4, did it like a recovery KVK. That's what we're doing anyway. And then you had Mercia, and then you had East Anglia team up together, and they both fight 1093 in Kingsland. That would actually be a fantastic KVK. Not for me personally, but overall, that would be a good KVK to watch. I mean, really, it doesn't even need to be Wessex. I'm just using that as the first example. The only way that you can make this KVK actually work in some way or another is you pretty much need one of these camps needs to agree, all right, guys, we're going to sit it out. We're going to take a number of autarchs as our placeholder for, leaving you guys to participate in the KVK yourself. We're just going to leave you to it. And that is literally the only way that you can do it. Now, unfortunately, not any of these camps were willing to do that. They're not willing to make that sacrifice. And again, I'm not really expecting them to do that either. Like, it sucks. It's a crappy situation to be in. If you want to look at this match in a very creative way, I think that's the only way you could have made it work. One of the kingdoms or the camps was going to have to sit out. Because that didn't happen, now we're in this situation where no one can agree to any diplomacy, and now we're in a farming KVK. That is literally where we're at right now. We have some of the best kingdoms in the game, and we're going to be going into a farming KVK. That is unheard of. I've never seen this kind of KVK happen before, and it's very sad to see that. And also the fact that I'm here as well, this is why I'm making this video, because I felt like, you know what, I need to share my perspective on this, seeing as I'm part of this KVK. I'm not just an observer, I'm actually going to be in this KVK farming with the rest of the Imperium Kingdoms. So that's pretty much what's been going on from my perspective anyway. And it's a very unfortunate situation. And it is what it is, guys. So for now, we are in pre-KVK, and we will be entering into Lost Kingdom in a few days. And we've already been advised not to spend on any technology. Like, literally no one is going to be spending anything. So I just felt like I needed to share my thoughts on this, seeing as the community is so divided on this KVK. So that's what's going to be happening, guys. It is a little bit annoying. It's a little bit frustrating for me as well. I'm not happy about this situation, but that's where we're at. This is actually only my second account, like I said, and I do still have my main account in Kingdom 2359. Anyway, guys, the good thing is we do have our KVK in 2359 to look forward to. So there are some other good things coming up ahead. So definitely stay tuned for that. And also, if there's any changes to this KVK or any other drama that might unfold, definitely subscribe to the channel, because I will be making videos to update you guys on the process as well. Thank you so much for watching the video today, guys. I appreciate you giving me the time to let me share my thoughts with you. And also, guys, consider to join our Discord server, which is in the description below, where you guys can also connect with me off streams. So with that being said, guys, I will see you all in the next video, and I hope that you all have a great week ahead.